So as you know, we have been in the book 10% Human, which has really been eye-opening to me. I'd love to know your thoughts on it so far. We're on chapter 5. And today I'm just going to give you a brief overview of chapter 5 and some of the things that you can look for, the key aspects of that. One, the most important thing is that the chapter is called Germ Warfare. And I think it's important for us to understand the overall arching focus of the chapter is about our approach to disease over the last, certainly since 1940. So we're looking at the last, say, 80 years of medical and pharmaceutical industrial applications, but also our attitude toward our body and our attitude toward germs and what that means. And I think for most of us growing up, our attitude toward germs is one that's pretty negative. We kind of have two camps going on here. We have the camp of what I'm going to call the hygiene, the hygiene approach, and she talks about this in her book. And then we also have this idea of, this mass killing of anything that we think could be harmful to the system. So let's talk about the first part. When you think of germs, when you think of disease, there's this hyper desire to clean. What we now know is that your microbiome, this 90% of who you are, so that your body, for those of you who haven't been reading the book or watching, your microbiome is actually the 6 pounds of trillions of different bacteria, viruses, and a few fungus that actually are good. And they run everything else in our body. They send signals. They help us feel happy or sad. They lead to the way your brain functions. They lead to your immune system function. They really do cover a full gamut of everything that happens in your body is connected to this microbiome. And when we talk about our DNA, right, and how important our DNA is, and then we learn that only 5% of our DNA determines our health, it's hard to really comprehend then what the other 95% is controlled by. And in popular literature, in science, a lot of that has been your lifestyle, right? What are the choices that you make? But what in particular is lifestyle doing, and how is it doing it? And that's where the microbiome comes in. Your lifestyle and your choices are the things that are going to affect your microbiome. And your microbiome is going to be the key element, the key control center that's going to then cause the effect of that lifestyle choice. So, for example, a lack of sleep may put too much stress on your microbiome because they're very sensitive, tiny microorganisms. They may not be able to actually survive in the environment that's created in a body that lacks sleep. Or, for example, if you choose to eat a lot of foods with preservatives, or as we're learning in this chapter, a lot of plants and or animals, mostly animals, that have been injected with antibiotics. So let's talk about that for a minute, because that was this germ warfare focus for this chapter. So we're hyper cleaning all of our good microbiome away, right? So your skin has a microbiome on it. Just imagine, I want you to close your eyes right now for a minute. And I just want you to imagine this beautiful covering, like almost a glow that covers your entire body. Don't think of it as creepy, crawly germs, things that we see under a microscope when we're in the 4th grade. I want you to think of it as an energetic, glowing, vibrant garden of a very intricate network of different species that live on your body and maintain its health. And every time you go to grab that chemical cleaner, every time you go to grab that antiseptic wipe that's laden with different chemicals, that sensitive microbiome starts to die off. And then your defense system gets weaker and weaker. Now that we do that internally as well, right? We do that with antibiotics. So we have the hygiene that we're using too many chemicals on the outside and wiping out that beautiful microbiome, that glow that's supposed to protect you. But then we've taken this life-saving mechanism that we created called an antibiotic. We've overused it. We've overprescribed it. In fact, most adults in their lifetime will receive 70 rounds, according to this book, 70 rounds of antibiotics. And in fact, they've done studies that show that children, for example, that are given antibiotics early on in life, like before the age of 2, have a higher rate of autism. They have a higher rate of allergies. They have higher rates of eczema and asthma. All of these, I call them the A diseases of today. Those are directly linked to some of the vaccines and some of the antibiotics that we have overused, right? So I'm not here to say that what we've done has been in error completely. What I'd like to say, because we know, for example, that antibiotics can be extremely life-saving, but should they be prescribed for every cough, every cold, every congestion, every bad day? And in fact, what we're learning is probably not. Now, all of this is correlation, not causation, which means that there's a body of evidence that is correlating, that's showing that there is a large group of people who are suffering, and they also have this as one of the variables. And one of the key variables, for example, in people who are obese, is that they've had significant number of rounds of antibiotics. Now, I will share with you that I also, as a young child, received numerous rounds of antibiotics for everything from ear infections, which, by the way, is where it gets started. So if you are a parent or a grandparent of young children and you find that the doctor is really focused on giving antibiotics for an ear infection, you may want to get a second opinion and really talk about the structure of the ear, the flow of the air. And I would even go further and say, let's look at the diet and see what kinds of inflammatory foods are leading to the inflammation of the ear. Also, remember that in young children, those ear canals are not fully developed. And sometimes we're impatient. We just don't give things time. Now, I'm not a physician and I'm not diagnosing. What I am saying is, it probably behooves you, the listener, to get as many opinions and to read as much as you can before you make major decisions like multiple rounds of antibiotics where your child, your young child especially, is concerned. Because of the strong link between obesity and some of these A diseases, allergy, asthma, eczema, which starts with an E, by the way, but autoimmune diseases, and of course, even cancers are slowly but significantly being tied to this dying off of the very important microbiome. One of the things that kills your microbiome, of course, is antibiotics. The word antibiotics means against life, right? So this is a wiping out of all the good things in your body, and we don't want that to happen. So if you need an antibiotic in an emergency situation, by all means, I think that can be an excellent choice. But before you just casually decide to take rounds and rounds of antibiotics or C-packs or other things like that, make sure that you're talking to your doctor about alternatives and the severity of the situation. I also would recommend that you look into some of the evidence surrounding obesity and antibiotics in animals. For example, it was shown that in chickens and pigs especially, that the more antibiotics that were given, the faster they grew and the earlier they could be killed and brought to market. So I personally am making a choice to find meats that say no antibiotics given ever. And I think that's really important. For those of us in America who tend to actually suffer from a lot of chemically laden foods and a lot of preservatives that are allowed here, but not in other places of the world, take a look at what's going on in other places of the world and ask yourself, is our government protecting us as well as they could? And are they allowing things in our food that maybe they shouldn't? So you can certainly abide by the laws of the FDA and just accept whatever is out there. But you can also compare it to other governments who also have their own FDA, who also have their own research scientists, and take a look at the foods and the preservatives and the chemicals that they are not allowing in their environment, in their communities, right, in their countries, and say to yourself, well, if it's not allowed here, why would it be allowed in the United States? And perhaps even if it's permitted, I'm going to decide not to buy. We in the United States often vote the most strongly with our pocketbook than we do even with our voting cards. So one of the ways that you can tell your favorite producers of foods and other goods, personal care products, is that I really love your product, but I don't like this ingredient. And I would really hope that you would consider removing it. Here is a list of countries that don't accept this ingredient and why. And let that consumer voice be heard. I think that's really, really important. I also want you to look at your own weight gain. Did you eat a lot of meat that might have been fed a lot of antibiotics over time? And did you find that you gained weight that has been difficult to lose? Have you yourself taken a lot of antibiotics? And could there be a correlation between those antibiotics and your weight gain? Could there be a correlation between the antibiotics and your child's ability to learn, to function, to develop, or their own obesity? Do they struggle with allergies? These are really good questions. So when you're writing in your notebook or typing on your smart device, I want you to consider some of these questions. So I'm going to pull up a list of questions that I want you to consider. Number one, do you know anyone with allergies, asthma, or eczema? If you do, you want to ask them questions about their antibiotic use, or how many preservatives they use, or what kinds of chemical cleaners they use. Just by removing some of those, if not all of them, might be helpful. Do you know anyone who has or has had cancer? And honestly, with that answer, I'm finding that people will really see a profound effect if they start writing down all the names of the people that they know that have either had cancer or have cancer. Do you know anyone with depression or anxiety? I think you're going to find that list shocking. In fact, it seems like between 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 Americans suffer from one or both of those cases, depression and anxiety. And remember, your microbiome is completely involved, if not solely responsible for your mental health. So what you do with your microbiome is going to be key to how you feel and live out each day. Do you know anyone who can't sleep? The inability to sleep is also directly correlated with the health of your microbiome. Do you know anyone who can't lose weight even when they diet and exercise? Does this feel like these issues are becoming more common? I think if you sit down and actually take the time to start making these lists, you will be shocked, as I was, and even horrified by the numbers of people who are suffering today. And we really don't want that to happen. Now, to share with you even further what's going on in the world of science and why the microbiome is super important, it's just not something that I'm talking about. I'm going to read some headlines to you that I think are really important. Here's a couple. Could skin microbiome transfer slow aging? How does your gut microbiome impact your overall health? Evidence for clinical interventions targeting the gut microbiome in cardiometabolic disease. Gut microbiome and health, mechanistic insights. The best way to care for your microbiome is to keep it as healthy as you can while you age. More than a decade ago, little was known about the myriad of microorganisms that live happily inside and on our bodies. Now, researchers believe that they could change the future of human health. And here from the Human Genome Research Institute, microbiomes in us and their role in the human health and disease. So these are all from 2022 and 2023. This is the latest research out there. This is the most vibrant and exciting area of health. And you can do a very simple Google search of health and your microbiome and find pages and pages of articles and research topics that I think are going to astound you. It's going to give you a really good understanding of really how key this microbiome is to your overall health. So let's take a look at the microbiome by the numbers. Did you know that up to 90% of all disease can be traced in some way back to gut health and health of the microbiome? 90%. Did you know that 10 to 100 trillion is the number of symbiotic microbial cells harbored by each person, primarily bacteria in the gut that make up the human microbiome? Did you know that 10,000 is the number of different microbe species researchers have identified living in the human body? There are 10 times as many outside organisms as there are human cells in the human body. 100 to 1 is the genes in our microbiome outnumber the genes in our genome. So the things that make you human, the things that you can actually touch and see, there are actually 100 times more that you can't. 3.3 million is the number of non-redundant genes in the human gut microbiome. 22,000 is the approximate number of genes in the human gene catalog. I've heard anywhere between 21,000 and 22,000. So you can see 22,000 versus 3.3 million. We're talking about vast numbers there, vastly different. 0.9% of individual humans are identical to one another in terms of their host genome. And 80 to 90% of percentage of individual humans are different from one another in terms of their microbiome. So what makes us human is pretty similar, right? We have legs, we have hands, we have eyes, we have a head, we have a heart, our lungs, right? All of these things we have in common. But when it comes to our microbiomes are vastly different from each other. And so what I may need and what I may do is going to be different from what you may need and what you do. But I'm going to give you some things, some big things that we can stay away from, all of us, and some generally good things that we can all do together. So firstly, what do we stay away from? Chemical cleaners, food additives, preservatives, dyes, and emulsifiers. Emulsifiers are in everything, so be really careful with your packaged foods, especially frozen foods too. Those are packaged as well. Look at your bread, look at your crackers, look at anything that comes in a jar, a box, a can, a bag. All of those have lots of ingredients on them, your ice creams, things like that. Vaccines, we have to be really careful with. Antibiotics, we have to be careful with, and pharmaceuticals. Chemicals in your mouthwash. Make sure you're using an all-natural mouthwash. I love the doTERRA On Guard mouthwash. It's safe for the microbiome. It's been tested on the microbiome. doTERRA is doing their own microbiome research on all of their products. And one really exciting thing is that essential oils not only do not harm the microbiome, but they actually heal your microbiome. So let's go forward and look at what good things we can do. So number one, eat whole organic foods. I hear a lot of people say to me, I don't have a lot of time to cook. It's really easy for me to have convenience foods. I have 1-2 jobs. I take care of parents. I take care of kids. I have other responsibilities, and cooking isn't something that I really have time to do. So I grab and go. Instead of grabbing and going with things that have already been processed into something new, take a look at things that you can grab and go in their original form. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, meats, cheeses. All of those things are pretty pure if you buy them in their right form, and they can be very fast and convenient. Look at a diverse natural diet. So when you go to the store, if you go once a week or every other day or once a month, doesn't matter. But each time you shop, you should be buying different types of things. You want a variety in your diet. Your microbiome loves variety. And when it only gets the same things over and over again, the microbiome that is needed for diversity starts to die off. And you may say, well, for example, if I need certain microbiomes to help me digest carrots, and I don't like carrots and I stop eating carrots, what's the big deal? Well, of course, that one vegetable alone is not a big deal. But if you're talking about a whole array of foods, right, that you're taking out of your diet, if you're limiting your diet to eating the same thing over and over. And I know decision fatigue is a real thing in America. It's certainly probably a real thing worldwide. But when it comes to food, you should actually prioritize decisions based on variety. Give yourself some variety every day, but just make it easy. Have a hydrator full of grab and go fruits, a hydrator full of grab and go vegetables. Make easy salads, make easy soups, easy stir fries. One of the things I like about vegetables is you can use them in all three ways. You can use them cold in a salad or with raw vegetables and make your own dip, or you can stir fry them up quickly, right? That can be a really quick, easy meal using healthy oils like olive oil and avocado oil and coconut oil. Or you can just throw them in a pot with some broth, which is also really good for your microbiome. Things like bone broth, excellent for your microbiome, and just cook it into a soup. So there's a lot of ways that you can have your own convenience foods, easy foods to make, without having all those extra preservatives that they need to keep them shelf stable in a grocery store long enough to sell and redeem their profit. You also want to make sure your water's clean. Take some time to have your water tested. If you need a filter, invest in a filter. You may say, well, we're planning to go on a vacation or do something else. Just think of maybe taking some of that money out and getting your water clean and making sure that most of the water that you use every day doesn't come out of a plastic bottle, because we know plastic bottles, that plastic will leach into the water if it's subjected to cold or hot. And it's really hard to keep those plastic bottles at a temperature where the water doesn't have that plastic leaching in. The other issue is if water sits long enough in whatever container, it's going to start to absorb what that container is made of. So even if you store your plastic water bottles at the perfect temperature, the idea that it is not absorbing some of those chemicals is just not true. There's really no way around it. We want to add some good things too. We're going to talk today about some probiotics, some prebiotics, the essential oils that you need, exercise, stress management, and sleep. So all of those things are really good. Now, I'm going to give you a package of things that I would recommend that you start with when it comes to your microbiome. And I'm going to put a link to purchase this in the comment section. And if you don't have that link, all you need to do is email me at Carrie.Donegan, that's CARRIE.DONEGAN@gmail.com. And I will get you the information you need. Again, that's Carrie.Donegan@gmail.com. But what I want you to consider, and I'm going to give you the overall package, is number one, a oral biome safe toothpaste. And we have two. One's called Supermint, which is brand new, and the other one is On Guard toothpaste. But I would like you to try the Supermint toothpaste because I think it's very close to probably the toothpaste that you're using, and it's not going to feel like you've made a huge jump into something very strange. Secondly, I'm going to recommend 3 essential oils for your skin microbiome. One is Blue Lotus. The second one is called Shinrin-yoku, or Forest Bathing Blend. And then the third one is birch oil. Then I want to talk to you about a sleep system that actually works. It's a 3-part system. It's very easy to use. One is essential oil-based stick that you just glide onto your skin. The second is an essential oil that you can diffuse while you're sleeping. And the third is an all-natural capsule that has everything you need to help you fall asleep and stay asleep for at least 7 hours. If you do need to get up within that 7 hours, not to worry. When your alarm goes off, you will not feel drowsy or drugged like you would with a chemical-based sleeping pill. And then lastly, we're going to talk about restoring your gut microbiome with really diverse probiotics, microphages, prebiotics, and postbiotics. All right, so let's talk about the oils for the skin first. First one is going to be birch. Birch is what was used before aspirin came on the market, and I think it's important for us all to return to its original form. Although birch, like wintergreen, is predominantly methyl salicylate, which is the chemical constituent in aspirin, it also has a few other things that help to, for example, buffer the stomach and protect the microbiome. So removing that one chemical from a natural product does have a similar analgesic effect or pain relieving effect. However, it's missing all the good things that nature intended it to have and causing side effects, which we don't want. For example, a lot of people who take aspirin end up with stomach ulcers, right? Because there's nothing to buffer the aspirin. But with birch essential oil, you can just take a little bit of that birch, rub it on your temples for a headache, or on your tummy for a stomach ache, on the back for a lower back pain, and it will do its job without negative side effects. The second one for your skin that's contained in this collection is called Blue Lotus. I love Blue Lotus because it's in a roll-on with fractionated coconut oil, and it's going to give you a relaxing aroma. It's a natural skin moisturizer. I like to add this to my Moringa Rose Serum. I kind of do a half and half blend now, and I'm really loving the results of my skin. I use very, very little makeup, mostly mascara and lipstick. And I really find that the true glow of my skin comes through with these products. I don't have to cover it with a lot of pasty makeup. There's also a sense of romance and relaxation that comes from these essential oils, something that I think we all need. We need to feel lighter, we need to feel more joyful, and we need to feel calmer. That's going to take care of your skin microbiome. The next thing I want to talk about is this toothpaste. Again, this is an all-natural toothpaste that's designed to enhance your microbiome, not detract it, not to create what they call dysbiosis. So there's your $10 word for the day. Dysbiosis just means that your microbiome is breaking down or falling apart, and it needs repairing. We know that oral health is directly connected to your cardiometabolic health, right? So your weight and your ability to have heart healthy body may actually be directly associated with the toothpaste choices you make, or even your mouthwash. So ditch the chemical mouthwash, get your On Guard mouthwash, ditch your bad toothpaste, and get the Supermint toothpaste. The Supermint toothpaste is going to be included in this collection that I'm going to share with you at the end of today's presentation. Now, lastly, I want to talk to you about restoring your gut. There's two ways to do it. One is a pill called Restore, which again has a 4-part system to it. You're going to get a huge array of probiotics to kind of reinvigorate that gut microflora. Second thing it's going to have in it is the prebiotic fiber needed to feed it so that it doesn't die out. Also, the thing that makes it shelf stable, which is wonderful. We do recommend that you open it up and use the whole thing within 30 days. That's going to give you the greatest effect when you use it. If you're going away and you're not taking it with you, my question is why? But if you had to leave it behind, again, why? I would definitely put it in the refrigerator. Next, it has something called a postbiotic, because when those prebiotics and those probiotics get together, they have an effect called a postbiotic. And those postbiotic molecules, those chemicals that are released, those take time. So what we've done is actually put them in ahead of time so you get them right away. You're going to get more as your prebiotic and your probiotic interact and grow together, but you already have postbiotics working on your gut microbiome. And then lastly, the macrophages. The phages are there to kill. They're a little virus, and they're there to kill the bad bacteria. So they're a little army that goes in and makes way and cleans out, right? So they're like the Marines. They go in first so that the army of probiotics can come in and start to rejuvenate your gut. And not just your gut. The Restore capsule is for your entire microbiome, including the microbiome of your eyes, inside your ears, inside your mouth, inside your lungs, inside your genitals, inside and on your skin. So it's a complete system for regrowth and rejuvenation and restoration. And then we have a sachet, which of course is friendly for people who don't swallow pills, for young children, but it's also just at an adult strength. Kids can use this too, because remember, we want a good and vibrant microbiome, and that's what the sachet is going to do. And you can take both of these together. Just remember that that sachet is specifically designed to restore the gut microbiome. It will not affect the other microbiomes, but the pill will. So those are the differences between the two. And then lastly, I want to talk to you about the sleep system. So again, the sleep system has 3 parts. It has a stick that you put on, like a stick perfume. Put that on at night. That's going to that's going to help you feel drowsy, but it's also going to keep you asleep for long periods of time during the night. We have a capsule called Serenity Gel Caps that has the addition of a tart cherry extract that's going to help your body produce melatonin. So you're not taking melatonin, which can be dangerous because then it can tell the body, oh, I don't need to produce melatonin anymore. This is a precursor to the production of melatonin. And so that tart cherry is going to help you fall asleep. And I will tell you, when I take it, I really, really have to fight to stay awake. It's an amazing product. And lastly, we have our beautiful Serenity oil that you can diffuse. And we recommend you diffuse it all night. And you diffuse it with a new blend called Shinrin Yoku. Shinrin Yoku is a diffuser blend, an application blend that's there to make you feel like you've had a moment of forest bathing. It combines all the essential oils that are found in the air, up in the hills, walking through trees, that we really need to recenter ourselves. It's the thing that our modern society lacks. We cannot commune with nature where we were intended to live when we live in boxes and in towers. So diffuse during the day, the Shinrin Yoku, put it on your body, increase your skin microbiome, increase your lung microbiome, and then take the Shinrin Yoku and your Serenity and diffuse it all night and just watch how beautiful your sleep is. Again, we have this beautiful collection for you today, and I'm going to put a link to the collection in the comment section so you have it. And if you're watching on YouTube, I will put it there as well. And if you have any questions about the collection, about the microbiome and how these products work with your microbiome, please let me know. And remember, we're in this together. I'm walking with you. And if you ever need any help, please do reach out. I will see you next week. We'll be in chapter 6 of the book, 10% Human. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.